Today we're going to talk about exports. So this is going to be crucial
Mhm.
for project. And today we have Alexander with us, who is our teammate, and he'll tell us a little bit more about data export possibilities.
Hey,
Yes,
Alexander.
exactly. Hello, everyone. My name is Aleksander Slowinski. I'm Junior Customer Success and Integration Manager here in Synerise. And today I would like to tell you something about export and also uh, mm, maybe briefly because the topic is really wide. I would like to show you two examples of export which we did recently for our customers. I believe that we can.
Sorry to interrupt, Alexander. I'm really sorry
Sorry?
for that. I just have one question before we start.
Okay.
To Anastasia. Anastasia, I want to discuss something post this call. Will you be available for that? Like post this presentation?
What exactly?
There's a new use case I want to discuss with you. So I have a client with a recommendation they need. So I just wanted to have a chat with you regarding that. So,
Absolutely.
do-
Let's cover this export part, and
okay, cool.
then we'll go to this use case. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, Alexander, all yours. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, no problem. If you have, this is office hours, which is for you, so you have a time to address any questions. But getting back to the presentation, I would like to tell you something about the different types of exports which we have here in Synerise. Of course, in the beginning there are manual exports, so you can manually export data from, for example, customer relations management module, from catalogs as well, from reports, and from dashboards. Apart from it, we've got automation exports, so they use automation module, and here we've got API methods, and it involves outgoing integration nodes in the automation, of course, SFTP, and Google Spreadsheets and Microsoft Excel integrations. Apart from that, we had a third type of export, which is ORC files export, but I won't talk about it during this session. I will focus mostly on the I will focus on the automation exports here. And our meeting won't be on a presentation itself, because I would like to show you how those exports are performed on in Synerise. So we will focus on, in the first place, exports of the reports with SFTP. And the second example of export which I would like to introduce to you are the master business profile. This is an internal name, so this is the aggregation of data from very different markets for one of our customer, which is present on about, I would say, 30 plus markets. So we gather all data in one business profile to sum up all the marketing campaigns which were performed lately. So let me get to the Synerise. So
And
I'm going.
meanwhile, I will just add that for your project, I think that this first use case, which Alexander will show us, will be the best one, I think, to go with. So let's of course discuss it after today's training. But I think it will be the base case for your new client. And the second case is for you, to be inspired. And since our cooperation is growing, maybe at some point this is also something that you keep in mind and may be useful.
Okay, cool.
So I will start with the export of a report. So in order to export a report, of course, in the first place, sorry, I'm going to turn off for a second just to get right to the report itself. Okay, sorry for that. I'm getting back. Okay, so we've got one more attendant. So maybe let's wait Okay, so getting back to the report export.
Hello.
Hello. Uh, in the first place, the report itself has to be prepared in the reports module. So we have such a report over here. And to briefly describe what it does, it shows the message sent event results for yesterday. So we are gathering all the campaigns which were sent yesterday to customers, and though this report involves only email campaigns. So we have such a report with dimensions, of course, with the range set up on the maximum, and we can of course preview the report, but what is the most important for us over here?
Just one second, Alec. I just want to ask: have you worked on the reports already, or should we tell a little bit more about this type of analytics? Because I'm not sure if you're already familiar with this analytics or not, or should we skip the analytical part and tell you how to integrate?
For me specifically, we kind of worked with the reports, but it was from the reporting dashboard that you also shared with us, and we've kind of like create our own dashboard from that. But I
Mhm.
think that analytics dashboard is new for us. I'm not sure with Tahir, but for me, this is new.
Okay, so maybe Oleg, you can just at least some really brief
Yes.
introduction.
Of course. So in the beginning, I have to mention that every report is made uh, based on the metric. So prior to preparing the report itself, the metric has to be prepared. As you can see over here, we are just focusing on the event of message sent. And here the time span is also set on 1 day before, so for yesterday. And after preparing such a metric, we can set the report to gather data from these metrics, and therefore we can set up dimensions which will be shown in the report. So we can not only display the value of the message sent as general, but also split it down based on the separate dimensions, we call it. So they are mostly the attributes from the event itself. So we can split it by, as you can see here, ID of the campaign, campaign name. We can also split it on, sending date and so on and so on. But also we can insert some aggregates and expressions as well to the report to also enrich it with additional values which are from different parts of Synerise. So we are preparing a report which doesn't only show the value itself, but it also gives you the wider context of these metrical, numerical results.
So,
Okay,
for
and
example, it can be just sorry, I will just add few examples that might be interesting. So, whether you want to export, for example, campaign data, then you do the metric for as we present for what was it, message sent event, or if you want to export, for example, page visits, or if you want to export profile updates or anything else. So it's up to you like what kind of data has to be exported. And then you know that in each event we have this set of parameters. So as we mentioned, you can from each event you can let's say export later on, because we're talking in the context of export. You will later export all of these parameters of this event, or defined parameters of this event, or even calculations done upfront of those parameters.
yes, exactly. And you can also prepare to report on, for example, transactions, and in dimensions insert uh, amount of money which people spend on these transactions, as well as SKUs. Everything which is in the event itself as an attribute could be drilled down in this on this report. Okay, so this is the basic, briefly preview of the report itself, and I would like to introduce you how to export this.
One last thing is also the time window, right? Which is just important. I know you showed it, but I just want to to make it also like really clear and loud that it's also you set to be set up by you how often you want this data to be generated so that you can export it according to your client's need. The question here before we go before we move on, sorry, just one more minute, is have you already agreed with the client on the set of data you will be needing to export, and will those be exports on a daily basis, or we're talking here about once a month, or how you're going to do that?
It will be on a daily schedule, but the way we want is like we don't want one specific metric. What we are aiming is we need to have a replica of whatever we have on Synerise as a JSON file or something like that. Because, for example, if you go into any of the profile now and you click on any of the event in there, you will be able to see the raw data in there, like what that uh, contact has done in that particular event, at what time that event was triggered, what was the source of the event, and so on. So what we are aiming to do here is we need to create an exact replica. So we need to have all these profiles which we have as a first party data on Synerise, and whatever events are attached to them as a JSON files, JSON objects attached to those each of this contact, and we just keep that on our SFTP server. So in case we have any backup, or in case we have any issues, so we can always refer to this replica which we have set up on our server to see what are as a raw data. And if that raw data needs to be imported anytime on Synerise, so even that can be done. So that's the objective here.
Okay.
So we will address this need, because I will show you how to export data on yesterday's reports of email campaigns. But you can do it as well for yesterday's transactions, or transaction during last 1 week. So this is just what Anastasia mentioned. This could be set easily in the report via setting up the time span for this report. So this is a good place for you to be, because we will show you exactly this kind of export, the export of yesterday's message which were sent. So yeah, Anastasia, do you have anything to add,
No.
or could I proceed?
No, for now, let's proceed.
Okay, so over here we have our report set up, and we can, of course, download it, and this would be the manual export. But of course, we would like to do it automatically. So how to do such a automatical report? In the first place, we have to find the method with which we will be able to download this file as a CSV file. Of course, we can do it manually from the reports preview, but we would like to use our API call method. So this is also described in the use case, and because there is a dedicated use case to exporting the reports, but I would like to show you how to do it live. So in order to download, and in order to use to find the method of API call which will help us to import this kind of report, we have to find the developers tools. You have to get to the developers tools in your browser, and therefore, as you can see here, I'm using a Chrome browser. In the network, you have all the requests which are sent on this website. And here I would like to focus on preview CSV request. And as you can see, it is also correspondent with the download of the file. But here we have the body of the API call, which will be helpful afterwards. So now I am showing you how to get this API request body. And we will get back to this later. I just wanted to mention that we will use developers tools over here. Why we are using developers tools and why we are looking for this requests body? Because in order to send reports, as I mentioned, we have to, in the first place, generate the report itself. So as you can see here, we have a very simple automation made of 4 nodes, which basically sends reports on yesterday's email campaigns. And here, in the first place, the trigger itself is not an event. It's periodically starting at 2 a.m. Polish time. And this works every day, and we are sending constantly the report. So all the data from every day is going to be sent. As you can see here, report was sent 11 hours ago, a day, 2 days ago, and so on and so on. So we are in the first place preparing a trigger, and therefore we have to generate the report itself, which will be in the third node sent to the SFTP. So how we are doing it? I would like to mention that the node which we are using is might be a little misleading because here we have a get file node. And the method we are using is not get, but post. Why is that? Because we would like to generate the report with the dimensions and data which was previously set up in the report itself. So over here in the body of the request which we are preparing to our Synerise API, we are going to insert the same request body which previously we generated in the report itself. So I can copy this object, and if I would be able to insert it here, you would see that this is the same body which was generated by us 3 minutes ago. So having mentioned that in order to send a report, you have to generate the report itself in the first place. Do you have any questions in regard to this part?
Looks fine for me.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Seems fine to me.
Okay.
Good to know.
Okay, so I will mention that the report which we are sending is not a JSON file. It is converted to a CSV file, just like we downloaded in when we pressed the download CSV button in the report preview. So here we also have to set our delimiter. By default, it is a comma, but here we have a semicolon because it will be. It was used in this way during our the whole report flow. So having mentioned that you have to be consistent with using the delimiter itself, and as well, I would like to mention that for you to be sure, it won't be a case over here, but if you would like to in the future import some data or to catalogs, for example, have in mind that this char set but coding of symbols have to be also consistent. So as you can see here, I inserted the body of the request and also used our API key. Why is that? Because it is the request to the Synerise itself, after which the report will be generated in CSV format. And with after this node this node started and performed, we are getting to the third node, which is the sending of the file itself to the SFTP server with the SFTP method. So over here, as you can see, we have set up the server itself. It doesn't have any private data, so I will show you briefly how it is done. In the first place, you have to set up the server on which the file itself it will be sent. Therefore, if you are using a additional directory, any folder on this server, you have to insert it right here. And here is a very interesting part, because the file name itself could be a simple string, but as you can see here, I am enriching it with the current date, because on the server we are constantly sending reports each day. So we don't want the file to be overwritten, but we would like to send a separate report for each day. And this Jinja expression helps us to prepare a file name which also contain the current date. So we are here using the expression which shows us today's date, and therefore this is the same setting which we did in the previous node. It just has to be consistent, as I mentioned. And at last, we are authenticating ourselves with the server, so we have to it is dependent on how the server itself is protected. But here we are using the simplest one method, which is login and password, to get access to the server itself. So after such a preparation, and of course, preparing the end node, the automation which will export and send the report to the server is basically prepared, and it will work. So, any questions in regard to this one?
One quick question. In regard with the data which we are sending. So you're sending right now the campaign report, which is generated for each contact. So are you sending also the contact data as well, for example, email address and so on, or is it just the metrics?
No. If I would split down how we are doing it, we are sending here in this automation, we are sending just message sent, just campaign IDs. Why is that? Because the results of the campaign itself we are gathering on this master profile. Why is that? Because in the first place, here in the automation, we are sending the IDs of the campaigns, which therefore will be used in the separate automation to send API calls to metrics. So here we are in this automation sending reports with IDs of campaigns which were sent yesterday to, and here I'm going to show you the second part of this automation, of this analytics, which is this master profile. This is the separate profile. As you can see here, we don't have I will get here. We don't have export automations. We have import automations, because here on this master profile, we are in the first place collecting. I will show you how it is done. I can show you on any example, but here, as you can see here.
Okay.
Sorry? Any
I also
questions?
saw one user base report something over there.
Yes, yes, but it works a little different because we don't send campaign IDs in the first place. We are preparing each month an API call on user base, on activity, on how many users were active during last month. So it works a little different. We are not exporting any data. I would like to focus on this campaign results because here we are using the export. And as you can see here, it is similar to the export automation, but as you can see here, the trigger is also scheduled to turn on at 1 hour later after we export from the business profiles of our customer, those reports. And here we have a get file also, which is focusing on this server, and it gathers the file in the same manner in which we did the export. So it is also collecting the report from the last day, and therefore it uses data transformation to change this report on events. So we can import a report in which there is an information on yesterday's campaigns which were sent, and here on this master profile we are switching it to events. Why is that? Because, and this is really, I think, interesting part, we have one, I would say, dynamic automation. Yeah, it is very dynamic automation, which is called let me newsletter template. Yeah, and here the trigger itself. I would like to sum this up. After such changing this report on events, the Synerise is adding a customer per campaign ID. So basically what I'm here doing I am changing IDs of campaigns from the report to users. Why is that? Because I would like those users, which are campaigns, to get to the automation. So those users, which custom IDs are campaign IDs from the source business profile, therefore is getting to the automation to ask through outgoing integrations metrics from those source profiles. So here we have a catalog with business profile IDs and corresponding metrics over several events, such as newsletter open, message sent, and any type of data which we would like to which we would like to include in our whole report on the campaign. So to sum this up, in the first place, this automation, not this one or not this one which was exporting the reports, is a base for a further report on this master profile. Okay, so is it clear? Because I know that it might be complex. It is very complex automation. So if you have any questions, please ask them now, because I believe that there are some.
No problem. I think you can continue with the upload, like the final step of the SFTP as well. I think I have more questions there, so we can go into that later.
Yeah, so would like to mention that this is also the separate kind of exporting data from Synerise. We can ask metrics themselves through our API. Here we are using the automation on a separate, on the second business profile, but basically you can export data through API calls, but here I'm doing it automatically. So I don't have to prepare a separate automation to extract data on each campaign from a separate profile. So let's have an example that I have profile 1, 2, and 3. So because I'm using this dynamic automation in which the URL is dynamically prepared based on what we have in a catalog. So here we are we include two types of export. So the export through the SFTP and as well export through the API. And after such an automation, as you can see here, this user which is whose campaign whose custom ID is campaign ID is going through this automation, and as a result we have a form which is therefore submitted as a custom event, and this form aggregates data on this particular campaign. So basically we are in the first place extracting from this source profiles campaigns ID to use it in this automation, which therefore gives us results for this particular campaign from this particular business profile. So do you have questions in regard to this?
It's a little bit overwhelming and confusing for now, but yeah, when we go through it, I
Yeah.
think we'll have more questions.
Okay, so basically that was the two types of exports I would like to show you. So in the first place, the report export, and in the second place, the API call, which is dynamically driven from the catalog. And it really helps us out, because if you would like to gather data from all of those profiles separately, as you can see here, we have 44 different profiles. So 44 markets from which we gather data through this one automation. No, not one, but three, because one is exporting the report, the second one is importing the file and transforming it to events, and therefore the third automation is built based on the catalog, and it helps us to extract results of this campaign from the source profiles. And basically, I believe that's it.
Yeah, I will. Thanks a lot, Alec, for this presentation. Let's talk a little bit more about your client, if we may, please, because what I would need to understand is, you mentioned Tahir right now in the chat that you want all the raw data. I'm not sure how many data is going to be on this workflow of yours, but is it like 100% that you need all of the raw data, or for example we can, some data is sensitive enough so that you need it like each event separately, or some data, for example maybe campaign data, may be sent out as an aggregated data, for example from the previous day?
Maybe I can check on that in terms of what data we need to keep on the local server. So the user data for sure we need to keep that, but even that needs to be encrypted. Like what we are planning to have is whatever data we upload on Synerise, we will have it via SHA hashing functions. And whenever we download this data from Synerise, like when we create this exports from Synerise to the local server, we need to keep them hashed. So it's not available over there as raw data. So only the email addresses and phone number can be hashed, and the events and whatever other data is, it can remain as it is, linked to those hashed user profiles. So that's the objective. I will, Harish, if you can let me know. We can have an internal discussion about this as well, like until
Yeah.
up to what extent we need to keep this data on our on the local server. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
is it just the user data, profile data plus the each of the event data, or
Or maybe
whatever is the most
Yeah.
important metrics for us?
Absolutely, please discuss this. Like maybe not all of the data should be raw data. Maybe it's enough to have from the previous day. This is the amount of messages sent, dynamic contents click, page views, etc. So
And
uh,
also have in mind that reports have a maximum of 1003 records. So also you have to work out how to prepare several maybe if the number amount of data will extend 1000 rows, we have to figure out somehow how to uh, mm, divide it in separate files.
But yeah, but let's for now, like you see these possibilities. So whether raw or whether disaggregate data on all of these, possibilities that Alex showed us today. So discuss this maybe internally. Let us know what is the result. So what is the must have, what is optional, what can be aggregated data. And then we will prepare, let's say, the preferred solution based on that.
Okay, cool.
Y- Yeah, no, I need to just check on that internally with Tahir and like exactly what data we are keeping on this local server, what is required in the time frame. At this stage, it was just us looking at the possible options that you've kind of gone through. Once we have that clarity, we'll definitely get back to you, Anastasia. And also, I wanted to bring up just quickly, I don't know if this is outside the scope of this discussion, was I remember on the previous call we were talking about that local server. Do you have any kinds of information in regards to the cost of what that would look like, um, based on the previous time you've done this, where it was, I think, in Turkey? How much server space did that take up? What was the cost attached to it? Just so we can build that in and just understand that.
It actually depends on the method of integration we will choose, and this will depend on your answer. What is the amount of data? How often you want to export this data?
Mhm.
Uh, so I think like we'll try to make some estimations, but only it will be possible only after we agree on the scope of the export.
All
Okay,
right,
Anastasia.
that's okay. Yeah,
Uh,
thanks.
to ex- on extension of that, as Harish mentioned, this use case has already been implemented by you guys for Turkey. What kind of data they stored on the local server? Was it all the data or was it just the profile data?
Profile data.
That's that profile data. And what was the volume of storage expected for that? So if we use only profile data in that case.
It also depends. I don't remember right now, but it also depends on the number of, visits, like whether we're talking about anonymous or only identified. If only identified, how many of them we'll have? Do you know the volumes for this client?
So maybe, for example, for the first year, it won't be more than 100,000 profiles, like not more than 200,000 along with the known and unknown.
Mhm.
Uh, Also, you mentioned the visits and everything as well. Were those recorded as well on the local server, or is it just the profile data? How was that?
No, actually, they just exported aggregated data. It turns out at the very end, because they also thought that they would need to export everything, but at the end of the day, it turned out that they didn't have to do that, and they just had to have the aggregated information, and that's it. So,
Uh,
so that they set up, all of the metrics and all of the stuff they needed, and exported only that.
when you say aggregated information, does that include like visits, email opens, and all that metrics as well, or was it like predefined for them? how did that work? Just I'm just trying to solve the problem which we are having right now.
For,
So just
for
related to
them,
the use case which already done.
yeah, but I think it also depends on the client's expectation, right? Because for them, the most important data was the client data, to be honest.
Okay.
So this is the must have what they wanted. They wanted all of the updates on the client, everything that is going on with the client. This was their main objective. So everything else were just upfront. The most important for them was the data related to the client.
Okay, cool. I think we need the same thing. What we need over here is just the data related to the client, but in terms of visits, what the activity, just client activities. So if we have a
Even activities,
okay,
I'm talking about, attributes, client attributes more than activities. I'm talking about attributes.
okay, cool. Let us have a internal conversation. Let's with Harish, and we can then get back to you in terms of the volume of traffic would be expected and what amount of users we would have to keep on the local server as well. So then we can gauge the storage required and what would be the cost associated with that as well. Let us have an internal discussion on that, and we can get back to you on the email, on the same email thread.
Of course, of course. Yeah, 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 yeah. Please do. And of course, we'll try to estimate then.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, that sounds fair enough. Thanks for your time, guys. I appreciate it.
I have few more questions to you, Anastasia.
Let's go. Thank you. Thanks, Alec, a lot for this part.
Thank you very much and see you in 1 week.
Thank you so
Will
much.
do. See
Thank
you guys.
you.
Bye bye.